today, dear friends, are do you find even in your home, your family, maybe your spouse, it can definitely happen at work, maybe various other places, extended family gatherings, holidays, and so forth. You live a certain way, you think a certain way, and even by some of the things you say verbally, you just kind of you look around, you go, they're just not getting it.
Right. Right. Right, exactly. I've experienced that many a times, unfortunately. But Jerry, here's the thing. So many of us want other human beings to be able to understand what's in our minds and what's in our hearts. Okay, God understands our hearts. We have to constantly keep that in perspective. And we kind of set people up with these high expectations that, oh, my husband should know me inside and out. My husband should know exactly how I'm feeling and how I'm reacting in this situation. And that may not necessarily be true. Even in the words we use, sometimes we can't fully express what's going on in our hearts. And it's very frustrating. And it may even cause us, Jerry, to sin. It may even cause us to hold on to resentment or to build up walls and do all sorts of things that are against what we are to be as Catholic Christians in this world. So, dear listeners, if this has happened to you, I shouldn't say dear listeners, take two family, come on. If this has happened to you, because it's happened to me many times, call in and share your experience of it and how you were able to, really have some kind of resolution for yourself. Because you don't want to walk away with hidden resentments or even stuffed feelings. That's another bad part of things that we take into relationships with all these stuffed emotions. So here's the number to dial. Matt Gabinski is awesome to talk to. You'll be listening live as you're holding on to get on the show, so you won't miss a thing. 1-800-585-9396.
Well, Debbie, let me ask you this. What are some of the more common environments in which this happens? Do you have a sense of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In marital relationships, it happens quite frequently, actually. Just because of what I stated earlier, you just automatically assume, Jerry, that your spouse should know every single nuance about you. And that's just not true. We're two separate, unique individuals. And it happens in workplaces very often. When I was working in the hotel industry, I actually was very much closely aligned with human resources, and it used to come up all the time. Employees would walk in and just cry and be exasperated and just wiped out because they felt I'm trying to tell this person, this coworker, how I feel, and it's coming across the wrong way, and it's causing all these problems, and now it's a horrible work environment. Oh, Jerry, it happens in so many circles.
Well, the number again is 1-800-585-9396 as the calls start to come in, and we'll let Matt handle those, and we'll get to them in just a few minutes. One thing that I would imagine, Debbie, where this can really be manifested is especially, like you said, in the workplace, because, when you're talking about a spousal relationship, you're right, couples are not necessarily going to know every little nook and cranny of each other's brain and heart. You want to reveal those. You want to discover those as the relationship goes on, and you do. But I think the further away you get in terms of the affective connection to somebody, here with a spouse, you're very affectively connected. At work, you're not so much. So there maybe isn't that attempt that's made on the part of your coworkers to really know who you are, what drives you, what really inspires and motivates you. And I'm thinking especially if you're a person of faith in a work environment, for example, or any other environment where there are people who are not of faith, maybe antagonistic to the faith, I wonder if dynamics like that can play into it as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. Sometimes you really feel like your coworkers, because you spend so much time with them during the day, that they almost become like a pseudo family. But that may not be true. They have their own situations, their own issues, their own stresses. And it's great when coworkers can become really close, but it doesn't always happen that way. And misunderstandings do arise. In sibling relationships. Happens all the time. Jerry, you come from a big family. I come from a big family. It so easily can happen because, again, we somewhat tend to label each other. Oh, that's my brother Jerry. He's the oldest. This is how he's going to react in this situation. But it may not always be that way. Jerry could be evolving and changing and growing, and so it may not happen that way. So misunderstandings can arise. And so that's what we're asking today. That's the question we're posing today. If you've ever been misunderstood, how has that made you feel, first of all? How have you overcome it? How have you really learned to work through it and maybe grown from it? How have you kept your Christian sanity, if you will? Because like we said, it's a painful emotion. So that's what we're talking about today, being misunderstood in general, in the world. Call in, share your take, 1-800-585-9396.
Well, you are in good company if you've ever been misunderstood. Jesus was badly misunderstood so many times. So call and share your take on this today. You're going to be very well teaching somebody else how to be prepared for a similar situation. 800-585-9396.
John Martinoni.
Okay, the serpent was Satan, essentially. He had taken the form of a serpent. Satan is culpable because he tempted them to evil. He is not responsible for their sin. They had free will. They could have said no. Satan is culpable because he tempted them to do something contrary to the will of God.
Open Line with John Martinoni. Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Missing Catholic radio in your area? Heed God's call to get involved and start a Catholic radio station. Contact Jack Williams, 205-795-5756, or email jwilliams@ewtn.com.
Dr. Ray Guarendi.
When did you come to the faith? I came to the faith when my kids were teenagers, or when they were grown. That's a source of guilt. Why couldn't I come to the faith so I could raise them in the faith? Okay, be grateful that you came to the faith when you did. The timing is not always ours. Now, since you're deeper in the faith, you can do one thing that you wouldn't have done before. You can pray for the children. Be grateful that you came to the faith at some point. Let the children see what mom is like now, what dad is like now, compared to how they were raised before mom or dad came to the faith. Not a source of guilt, source of gratitude.
This is Cy Kellett, host of Catholic Answers Live.
This is Jeanette DeMello, host of Register Radio.
This is Bishop Robert Barron of the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. Thanks for listening to EWTN Radio.
This is your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher. And you can also see us on YouTube and Facebook Live. So hi, everyone that's watching right now. We're glad you joined us. And if you like what you hear on Take Two, may we just ask this one small little favor, if you will, just because it helps your local radio stations, your Catholic radio stations. Now is the time in the summer where a lot of local Catholic radio stations send out surveys about the programs they love on their local Catholic radio station. And some of you listen to us on Sirius XM or your app or EWTN.com, and your local station maybe isn't playing Take Two. Now is a perfect time to have your voice be heard. If you like what you hear on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, please be generous and share your thoughts on the survey that may be going around this summer from your Catholic radio station. It's a great way for them to plan to get their show lineups for the fall. And I really hope and pray that Take Two is one of your favorites, because it's ours. We can actually feel and see the fruits of this wonderful ministry by your emails and your comments. So we know it's worthy of being on the air, and we just hope and pray you continue to support us by your listenership. So I just had to say that, Jerry, because I actually got a survey from actually the Station of the Cross sent out a survey, and I was tempted to put in that Take Two was my favorite show, but I thought that was a little bias.
It would have been, but
okay.
Nothing wrong with a little bias once in a while.
I didn't want to be misunderstood. But that's what we're talking about today. So what do you think? What question can we kind of give out to our listeners to have them really, educate us?
Well, again, the number is 1-800-585-9396. Talking about being misunderstood in life, those times in life when, we have our thought process just completely buttoned up, completely and totally in order, and we think it's airtight, and we may share thoughts, we may do actions, and all of a sudden some people don't quite understand it. They're maybe not in the same place that we are. We see that this happens a lot, Debbie, with nonverbal communication, and we've talked about this on the show. You send a text, you send an email, something gets misunderstood. And I'd love to hear from somebody or several of you if you then if you go back, do you follow up with, say, a phone call? Or do you say, I want to get together with you because something got lost in translation? You don't come out and say, oh, you completely misunderstood me. You don't want to get somebody riled up. But I know that I do that, Debbie, and I know you do too. And the reason is because I think it's important to be precise in communication. Debbie, I know as long as you've known me, I hope that that's one thing you've come to realize about me. I think precision in communication is very, very important. And when you see that something has been completely misunderstood, I sense, in a way, an obligation to go back to that person and to try to straighten out maybe whatever that misunderstanding might be. So that's just one example of how I handle something like this.
I would agree with you. You're very precise in communication. I tend to be an over-communicator. I'll say it and then I'll say it again. And you've actually pointed that out to me. You're like, you said it like a couple times, but I just want to make sure that it's properly expressed. So let me give you an example, or the whole world an example. I'll let you in behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. My husband and I were very passionate when we converse with one another because, I like to blame it on my Sicilian heritage, but, let's just go with that. Let's just say that's what it is. And I will start off a conversation. If this has ever happened to you, call in and share how you have really worked through this, because I still kind of somewhat struggle with it. I'll start out a conversation. I'll be thinking in my head, Jerry, I don't want this to go south. I don't want this to go downhill. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. And so I'll start my first sentences very gingerly and very slowly, kind of with compliments, intertwined within the first couple sentences. And before you know it, Marty has just received it, the exact opposite of what I intended. And then at that point, I'm struggling to survive. I'm just trying to pull it all back and rewind, hit the reset button, do over, erase, delete. That's not working. And now you've got to communicate on top of communication just to try to bring it back to center. If that's ever happened to you with something that you started off with and you wanted so badly not to be misunderstood, and right out of the gate, you were clearly misunderstood, how incredibly frustrating that is. There's so many times I walk away just scratching my head going, what did I say incorrectly that caused it to be interpreted or received that way? It's very interesting how we communicate with one another. Remember, we're communicating with souls, and it's important that what we do is either going to bring somebody closer to God or further away. And so it's communication is key for Catholic Christians. 1-800-585-9396. I can't be the only spouse that has had this situation, so call in and don't let me be alone.
Well, yeah, and if there are those of you who are very direct communicators, call and share that. That kind of gets at the heart of what we're talking about here too. Do you just like to cut to the chase, get right to the point, and maybe by doing so eliminate a lot of the misunderstandings that might happen in interpersonal communication? You know, Debbie, I mentioned that I like precision in communication, but I'm also like you in this sense, and that is I like to respect people's ability to interpret what I'm saying on their own. And here's an example of that. If I've had people that I've managed in the past or have reported to me or whatever, I might send an email out that says something like, you know, you know what I think would be a good idea is if you did such and such. What I'm saying is, do this. But what I'm writing, but I'm writing it and communicating it that way because I don't want to be perceived as, you know, misunderstood, if you will, as being sort of
like a dictator.
Yeah, boorish or, you know, barking out orders or something.
Right.
So I will write it almost as a suggestion, and sometimes the person just completely ignores it. Yeah. And I'll go back and I'll say, I thought we talked about this. And
but
they're
they
like,
said you were just
well,
thinking
yeah,
out
you
loud.
just said if I wanted to, I could.
Exactly. That's a really good point, Jerry. At what point, you know, where do you draw the line of you don't want to be too forceful in communication to come across looking like you're really trying to bully somebody or trying to, like you said, bark out orders or something like of that nature. But then you can be on the passive side so much that people take you at face value and say, well, that's just how Jerry communicates. This is really an interesting topic. So don't sit this out. Don't just be entertained by Jerry and my banter back and forth. This is your show. This is when you take it to heights that we all learn. We walk away from this brief hour together a little bit changed. So if you feel prompted by the Spirit, no take is foolish or unworthy to be on the air. Your story is important. It's unique, and we need to learn from it. 1-800-585-9396. Hurry to the phones. As a matter of fact, you don't have to hurry to a phone. You probably have it in your hand. So just call in.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you, and maybe even in the family. We talked about family dynamics. If you're a parent, for example, do you speak what you think is very, very plain English, and your kids kind of give you the deer in the headlights look, or they nod their head and say, yeah, I got you, I get you, no problem, and then maybe go off and just completely do something different or don't quite get done what you wanted them to do or wait forever to do it, things like this. In the family, Debbie, is certainly a place where this type of misunderstanding of others can happen. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way, but it certainly can.
Well, yeah, I would love to hear from somebody who's a son or daughter that's still living in the home. And maybe you could call in and share with us. Maybe you've always felt misunderstood ever since you were born. And that has happened sometimes. People in the family get the kind of the label, if you will. I don't like the word label. I got to use a different word because I don't like that. It boxes people in. And you may have gotten that tag on you that said, hey, you're the one that nobody can really understand. We don't know where your come from is. And maybe that's frustrating to you. And how do you cope with it? 1-800-585-9396. Phone lines are starting to fill up. That's a good sign. We're getting comments coming in on YouTube and Facebook, Jerry. And are we going to read one?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have it up. I had your picture up.
Oh, okay. I don't have one up either. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I didn't know if I was supposed to.
Okay, here it is.
I misunderstood. I don't understand you.
Okay. Perfect example for this show. Okay, if you get on the document, Jerry, just help me with the first name. Is it Timoteo? Timoteo,
yeah.
Timoteo. Okay, Timoteo. Facebook Live posted in and said, I had that situation just yesterday. A fellow Catholic has had a horrific experience that caused her to compromise and support Planned Parenthood and certain abortions. Told me and another Catholic brother that we do not know what she is going through and said that all we are trying to do is tell women what to do with their bodies. Oh, wow. Yeah, see, the pro-life ministry is probably, in my opinion, is one of the biggest misunderstood causes in the secular world, because that's exactly what happens. Is especially when a male says they are pro-life, automatically a defense is that, oh, you're trying to tell me what to do with my body, and you're trying to keep me down as a woman and stuff like that. And it's very unfortunate, because we know that the taking of a life affects everyone. We are the body of Christ. It affects everyone, not just the mother. It affects the father. It affects extended family. It affects the community, and it affects the world at large. And we have to remember that. And it's very important, because that's an argument that has been used for many, many years, Jerry. And that's why I believe a lot of men stay silent on the issue.
Yeah, there's the classic example given that if somebody were to start to wander across a bridge, and there's somebody there who's getting ready to jump off and end their life, and that the other person who encounters them wants to try to talk them out of it and save their life, or counsel them, or give them some advice or whatever, they might say, well, you've never done this, so how can you possibly give advice, or even take it even further, you can't. I mean, with something, there are just certain things in life that you don't necessarily have to have experienced yourself.
Right.
We have the teaching magisterium of the church, which for the most part is the Pope and the bishops in union with him. That's the ordinary magisterium of the church. Popes are never going to face unplanned pregnancies. Bishops are never going to face unplanned pregnancies in their own bodies. But that doesn't mean anything. God still has a law. There's a divine law. There's a natural law. And there's life. There's the dignity of life and the value and the love of human life. So
right.
It's really a bogus argument, but again, to give a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to the person making the argument, Debbie, they're in that situation. They're the one who's going through it. And so we need to try to maybe place ourselves inside that person's heart or inside that person's mind and realize they're going through a very difficult situation at that time.
Right. And when somebody is dealing with a situation of a crisis nature like that, where there's fear and all sorts of uncertainty of what could happen in the future, it's our job really to pray for them, to support them, and to get them to see the bigger picture. Because so many times fear will keep people in that tunnel. And that's unfortunate. Because then when they finally get past that fear crisis, and they kind of somewhat get out of the tunnel and a little bit into the light, they go, what did I do? And there's where regret, remorse, shame, everything starts to set in. So that it's our job to let people expand what is capable of them and what God has designed for them. I think that is really important, Jerry, and I'm glad Timoteo sent it in because it helps us understand that it's a big misunderstanding, and it's what we as Catholic Christians need to stay focused on and be charitable in the way we conduct our ministries. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. When we come back, we're going right to the phones. Cheryl, you're up first. Hold on.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
And Gloria keeps Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar handy.
Where most men work for degrees after their names, we work for one before our names, Saint. It's a much more difficult degree to attain. It takes a lifetime, and you don't get your diploma until you're dead.
That may be my favorite quote from Mother Angelica.
Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
Celebrating 100 years of Fatima with Monsignor Charles Pope.
On June 13th, 1917, Our Lady said to the children at Fatima, "The Lord Jesus wishes to establish devotion to my Immaculate Heart throughout the world. I promise salvation to whoever embraces it. These souls will be dear to God, like flowers put by me to adorn His throne. one of the most beautiful devotions that is the rosary. And the word rosary means flowers or roses. And what a beautiful thought that we, if you will, that the Lord himself indicates through Our Lady how pleased he is with devotion to his mother's heart, and that we become like flowers put before him. How pleased our Lord is. He is happy that we're devoted to his mother, and he asks us to stay close to her heart so that she can lead us ever more deeply to his sacred heart.
Join EWTN as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Fatima. Visit EWTN.com/Fatima.
We are always glad that you're with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. And as Debbie promised, time to go to your phone calls. 1-800-585-9396. Have you ever felt misunderstood? Maybe you were on the side of misunderstanding someone else. We just want to know how we can take these situations, turn them into positives, grow in virtue, even sometimes patience and humility and charity. So 1-800-585-9396. Cheryl, thank you for calling in from Fargo, North Dakota, listening on Real Presence Radio. You're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, Debbie.
Howdy.
Hi.
I'm calling in because Debbie asked for someone to call in who still lives with their parent. I'm in my 50s, but I live with my mother. And it's you're still living in the history of being a kid. And so basically when it comes to communication with us, a lot of times what I say is not what she hears. We also have a family trait where when you are in conversation and you're just talking, I end up switching nouns like table and refrigerator, but also we don't use names, so and it's all pronouns, and so you never know when the subject changes. And then she's talking about someone, and I think she was talking about the same person she was talking about 3 minutes ago, and she isn't. So it's massive confusion, and it's exhausting.
Cheryl, does she feel exhausted too, or is she happy with this kind of?
She does. She does. Yeah, and of her 4 kids, I was the one who was always piping up when we were growing up, saying, "Well, you know, Mom." And so she's coming from that history, and sometimes it just does not work well. So.
Well, I have a couple practical skills, but Jerry, I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, I was really going to ask a question more than anything, Cheryl. Is there a reason why your conversation kind of stays at the level of pronouns and not? I mean, sounds like there are some vagaries there, and maybe not, some specific.
Yeah, we've tried to kind of clear up conversations, but it's just not something that she actively works at, and with everything else going on in the family and stuff, it's just it's just more of we need to get information out, and just sitting and talking is rare. So.
Okay, so it's fair. So Cheryl, it's fair to say that you kind of go on autopilot when you're conversing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
There's the problem right there, actually, because in when we were training for life skills, that's exactly what they said. It's one of the even in any relationship, in a work relationship, in a spousal relationship, in a mother-daughter relationship like yours, Cheryl, when you go into autopilot, you're thinking of something else. You're just kind of spewing out the same stuff or the same pattern that you normally always do. And what happens is the same roles surface. So your role as the child surfaces in your mom's head, so she thinks she knows where your come from is. Her role surfaces at the way she always responded to you, and so you have the same thing happening over and over again, which is extremely exhausting. One of the ways one of the ways to break that, Cheryl, and it's really hard, but it could be fun and challenging, and I always love that, is you really do have to make a conscious effort to almost make it a game where you are 100% in the moment, talking to one another, and you take the time to repeat back to each other what the other person has said. And so you make it a game. Hey, Mom, listen, I want to have a conversation with you about whatever. And then you say, Mom, just do me one favor for me. Repeat back to me what I said to you, just so I know that we're on the same page, or just so I know that that I'm communicating it correctly, or whatever. It becomes a little bit of a game, and you watch how you shift the dynamics a little bit. I don't know if you've tried that.
Over the years, I have tried. She does not appreciate it, and she does not see it as a game. She just sees it as me being bossy. So.
Okay, yeah. So then you're in that. Okay, so you're in that predicament. All right, then what? Then the best thing for me, what I would do if I was in that situation, is you communicate the way you feel most comfortable, and you just don't expect that it is going to be received the way you thought it was, and this way you're not that disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that works. Half the time. So yeah.
Right. But it sounds like you're taking care of your mom because you're living with your mom. Is that right?
We're both taking care of each other, kind of. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
But that's a precious relationship. Yeah, that's precious, though. That's time you're going to have that you can never, replace. So.
Mhm. Yep. But thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
All right, Cheryl, thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Great to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396. There is a line open there as we welcome you to share your own communication issue, your own misunderstanding issue. Maybe you're somebody who just has these conversations that are just like there's never any lack of clarity or misunderstanding at all. We could definitely all learn something from that. So tell us how to communicate better. 1-800-585-9396. All right, hang on, Dave. You are right after Kathy in Virginia. Kathy is listening to us on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Kathy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome.
So, the description earlier of beginning a conversation and walking away feeling like you were just completely misunderstood and wanting to delete and re-record, and it happened to me just last weekend with my daughter, a college-age daughter, and I think part of the problem is her wanting to become independent and me still feeling like I have really good advice I want to be sure to give her. So I just wondered if you have any thoughts on how to navigate that changing role as they're, approaching 21 and growing up.
Debbie, you have had college-age kids. I have not. But I would just say, I think, Kathy, you probably just pointed to a couple things right there. Debbie and Kathy, either one, you're going to have to help me if I'm off on this, but my guess is, having not had kids, that this is exactly that age. I mean, it's not the first time a child wants to sort of spread his or her wings, express a little independence, put a little distance between mom or dad and me, that kind of stuff, just kind of make it on my own. But I think college age is really that time when you first actually are out of the house and mom and dad aren't around, and you just kind of look at the world around you and you go, I've got this thing by the tail, and you really you can go as far as you want in terms of that independence. So I think in addition to your prayers, Kathy, I know you just want to kind of keep reaching out and keep one hand on her shoulder, so to speak, to be in touch with her. But, you have to at some point learn to trust her that she's going to make good decisions, God willing, based on what you've taught her up until this point in your life, and again, based very heavily on your prayers. And then, of course, obviously, if you see that there are improper decisions or directions starting to fall into place, then maybe you get a little bit more vocal about it. But it's really a fine line. Debbie, I'd love you to comment on that.
No, Jerry, you handled that beautiful. I love what you had to say, everything. Kathy, I've worked with college-age kids for many years, and is your daughter the oldest?
She's the oldest girl.
She's the oldest. Okay. So this is your first experience with it. And what I have come to find out from the college-age kids is that they, like you said, they're trying to spread their wings. They're trying to gain their independence. So they have what's kind of like a push-pull. They push you away, but then they pull you in. They push you away, and then they pull you in, because they're still trying to figure out, still trying to navigate how they are in the adult world. And it's very frustrating for parents. You're not alone. But this time is their time of discovery and their time of really maturing. The one thing that shifts that I have heard, and I'm not a counselor, but I've worked in ministry with this age group for many years, so I've listened to them countless hours of what they would say about their parents, because what I've heard the college age kids say is that they want their parents there, they want to know that their parents are there, but they don't want the same relationship that they had when they were children, meaning parents tend to tell the children how to behave, how to even feel in certain situations, how to cope. They give the answers to things. Parents are constantly giving. Whereas the college age kids really wanted to learn and grow on their own, knowing that their parents are still there, like Jerry said, building that foundation that you have built, but they want to be able to tell their parents some things. So it's kind of a little bit of a role reversal right for now. But you've never lost your parent status, Kathy. Never. And you should keep that. The thing about it is you're not her friend, you're her mother. And what's beautiful about that is she must know you're there, and it's a constant. It's going to be harder for you to adapt to this age, this time period that she's in, than it is for her. Because she's growing and she's learning and she's changing and she's evolving. You're having to it's almost uncomfortable, if you will, as a parent, because it's letting go of this certain way we know how to interact with our children. I will tell you this: most girls come back around. So they come back around. They're even closer to their moms and dads than they were when they were children. I don't know if that helps you at all, but you're not alone. It's very common. What do you think?
That does help a lot. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, right. It's a tough age. It's like middle schoolers. It's a tough age. A lot of parents don't know how to, respond to that. But you're a great mom. You can tell you want to keep that connection, and she knows it. Believe me.
It's probably like every day as a parent.
Yeah, that's true.
What do I do now?
What do I do now? There's no manual.
Thank you, Kathy. Bless your heart.
Thanks, Kathy.
Hey, I was looking real quickly here. I was looking on Church Pop today. This is an EWTN service. There are some great articles. Mama Bosco is one of the articles. What is that, you say? Well, it's an article on why St. John Bosco's amazing mom. His mother is on the path to sainthood. And there's a story about how a priest exposes the 5 tenets of America's most popular feel-good heresy, and there is absolutely one of the most amazing sung Ave Marias you have ever heard. This is an EWTN-owned resource, Church Pop, P-O-P, and my understanding is there are about 500,000 people who like it on Facebook. So, folks, that tells you how amazingly popular it is, and you can get an email delivered to your inbox every single day. Just log on to churchpop.com and sign up. Okay, just wanted to mention that because it is a cool resource.
I love Church Pop. I look forward to it every single time it arrives in my inbox. Okay, Dave, you've been waiting so patiently in Peoria, Illinois, listening on St. Bernadette Radio. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, Dave.
Hello.
Hello.
Surprised I got in. I was just driving along and happened to catch the show today about miscommunications and that. This is kind of a big one, actually. I was took my wife out for ice cream one day, and I said, well, this is a place I've been. It's a really neat little ice cream shop, and it's good, and let's go here. And I've been there several times before. And we got there, and I ordered the same thing I'd ordered before, and the lady says, oh, I know what you like. And she got really upset, and to this day, she thinks that I've had an affair with that lady.
Oh, no.
I don't know what to do at this point. She actually ended up filing for divorce, and I'm actually still living at her house. She ended up getting it, but she to this day still believes that I had an affair with that lady, and there's no convincing her otherwise.
Dave, is there other issues that maybe led up to this, or is it all just around this waitress that she has opted out of the marriage?
Well, she has claimed that I changed the story about it. I mean, I said I'd been there maybe 6 times, and then I honestly don't know how many times I've been there. May have only been 2 or 3, but it was enough that lady remembered me, which is odd because I didn't remember her. But I think there's other issues, too. I know we've had a lot of financial problems, and there's a long list of things. But
have you have you looked into Retrovi or any type of the Catholic programs that are for marriages that could really use some help, or that are in trouble?
Well, honestly, I'm not Catholic.
Okay.
But we did go to some counseling, and it seemed like the counselor kind of sided with her that I wasn't doing things right and I needed to change things and do something better. I wasn't making enough money was the biggest thing, but I'm sure there's more than that. But it's just been one thing after another. We've had mishap after mishap, and it just ended up breaking our marriage apart.
So there was kind of a foundation laid just by a variety of different things. Dave, this may be a little bit personal, and in no way do you have to answer it at all or even reveal anything. But was this the first time that there was any sense on her part, even though it was incorrect, it was a misunderstanding, but that she might have had any inkling at all, thought that you were not being faithful to her? I mean, because it seems kind of a radical reaction to it being kind of the first time, especially simply an ice cream waitress remembering what flavor you liked. I mean, I don't know, did she have any thoughts before that?
She said that she always had problems with trust, but I think it was more from her first marriage because her husband cheated on her first time. And so she naturally thought I was going to as well.
That's right. Yeah, that's not going to leave her. That's going to stay with her. And I have never been married, Dave. You said you're probably, I think maybe today's the first time you listened to the show. Debbie's married. She's got a couple kids. I never have been, but we talk to a lot of people who have gone through issues like this. There are certainly trust issues, and Debbie, maybe you can speak to this better than I can and just give Dave a word of advice, because she obviously has that wound still, and Dave, you are now her ex-husband in her eyes and in her heart, in the sense that, well, if one did it to me, they're all alike. He's going to do it to me as well. I'm not, that may or may not be true. I don't know, but I think it's a very possible situation. Debbie, what do you think?
Yeah,
I totally agree.
You're right. Yeah, you're right on that. I'm actually, we are legally divorced now. I'm still living in her house. I have really nowhere else to go, but she kind of makes it miserable for me to live there.
Is there are there children involved, Dave?
Not between us. She has an older son from a previous one, but we don't have any of our own.
And are either of you spiritual?
Yes, we both are, actually. We attended a church in Peoria here that was really good, and I still go. It's a very prophetic, spirit-driven church, and our pastor, he totally understands, but she refuses to go there anymore. She's like afraid to show her face or something.
Okay. Well, Dave, you know what? You're in a situation where you've got a lot of emotional pain here. I mean, you're still living in the home. You're officially divorced, but I would, if I was in your situation, I would really pray for your wife. Because she, like Jerry said, she's got a lot of things she has to heal, because trust issues are very hard to get over in this world. And everyone she looks at, she could reflect back to those wounds that she's feeling. I know that because the trust level for me was broken long ago, and it was very hard for me to heal from it. I would really pray for her. Dave, continue going to church. And I say that because that will give you the strength and the grace, and it'll just allow you to stay connected to God. Because, Dave, here's the thing. God wants us to have life and to have it to the full. And yes, your marriage may have ended. It may not be over. It may be over. We don't know. But the only way to really figure out if it's truly over is if you get into alignment with God, meaning that you're in prayer, and you really try to listen to what God has in store for you. That's how you know if you're going maybe in the right direction, or which way to go. And also, there's a lot of healing. God brings a lot of healing, especially when couples decide to end it. But Dave, I just want to say to you, I'm going to commit my rosary today to you and your wife, because I can hear it in your voice that it's an unfortunate, very sad situation, and it sounds like that's not what you want. So I'm going to pray. Yeah, go ahead.
my eyes, I feel like I'm still married, and I think God still believes we're married. But it's a legal piece of paper, but whose law is more abiding.
Sure.
Well, and Dave, as you move forward with that disposition, you can, as Debbie said, embrace your wife in your heart. She is still there, it sounds like, obviously, and definitely in your prayers. And I know you hold no judgment toward her. I presume you don't. And there's a lot of reason not to, Dave, because again, she is acting out of a place of her own past experiences, many of them painful, and your prayers could be really a powerful source of God's grace and healing in her life. And we're going to join you. We're going to join you in praying for her, and we're going to pray for you. And invite you to keep us posted. Call the show anytime. We have an email address, take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com. If you just want to touch base, say hi, let us know how things are going. We would be happy to hear from you.
Absolutely. And you know what else too, Dave? Stay tuned in to EWTN Radio, because I will tell you it's a lifeline to so many people, and God speaks in miraculous ways. And just like today's show, you'll hear something that only pertains to you and your situation, and that's truly the Holy Spirit working. I mean, that's how God works. So just know you're not alone, Dave, and we're all with you, and we're going to join you in prayer. And please do what Jerry says. Keep in touch with us.
Okay. All right, we'll do.
All right, thanks, Dave. Glad that you called. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And I know all of our listening family, we're going to be praying for Dave and his wife in that situation as well. Okay, Lewis is next in Little Elm, Texas, has us on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Lewis. You're up next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
I am doing great. It's so great to talk to you guys.
Well, thanks.
The thing, what I wanted to share was I very recently had the opportunity to go to do a retreat that was called Finding Cana, and it was a marriage retreat, and it was absolutely beautiful because the main focus of the retreat was something called safe conversation, and it literally was a set of skills in how you can communicate with your spouse. But of course, these communication concepts, they can obviously work in communicating with anybody. And earlier in the show, you mentioned that with the woman that was living with her mom, that they should kind of repeat back what they said, and I was like, hey, that's mirroring from the retreat. And I know that, of course, right after you go to a retreat, you absolutely love everything you just did. So for the past 2 weeks, me and my wife have been, kind of just changing the way that we communicate with each other. And it makes things so much nicer, because that you're being heard, that you're being cared about, and that you're being listened to. And it's just beautiful and amazing, and I highly recommend that retreat and that system to anybody, and the additional skills that you get. It was just great.
Wow, I'm coming out of my chair here, Lewis. This is fantastic. What did you, Debbie? You reacted when he said the name of the retreat. What was it again?
Finding Cana.
Finding Cana, yeah. And so it was about getting back to, that wedding day and that wedding feast, and inviting Jesus. It was Jesus' first miracle, and and that miracle exists in every wedding. And you want to invite Jesus in there, and the way that you talk to your spouse needs to reflect that love. And and it's great because beyond mirroring, there's also empathizing, validating, as additional parts of the communication. So more than just saying back to the other person, but you also validate, I understand why you're feeling that way or why you reacted that way. And I want you to understand, and then coming up with, and if it's, they had what they called a behavior response request or a behavior change request. So if your spouse is doing, then get your
Oh, Lewis.
Now we're losing you there, Lewis, a little bit. Hang on the line there. We may still have you, but
there you go.
Go ahead. We got you now, Lewis. Real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. But you may, if your spouse is doing something that's annoying you, to have a safe way of being able to express that without feeling like you're nagging.
Right.
And
right.
to be able to share that and give them options for how they can address that behavior or that action that's causing you pain. And it was a transformative weekend for me and my wife.
It's life-changing. Lewis, hold on to that retreat high. Hold on to it. Bottle it. Keep it going. That you're on to something great. And don't let, whenever Satan rises his ugly head, which he will because he sees that you guys are enthusiastic and happy, don't let it. Safeguard your spouse and make sure you get rooted in prayer like you are, and keep the skills you learned, keep it going. That's the way to do it. Jerry and I are firm believers of all those skills that you learned.
Practical stuff, and yet sometimes it gets lost in the day-to-day of marriage in particular. But Lewis, you nailed it right there. And Lou in Whitman, Massachusetts, Lou and the others, we wish we had time. You can hear that music bringing the show to an end today. But tomorrow, Debbie, I'm looking forward to the program as well. Folks, are you soaked in the faith? All right, that's kind of a playful way of my phrasing the topic. How does the faith inform every area of your life? Be thinking about that and call with your take tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
And just back to Lou in Whitman, Massachusetts, I would love to hear your story. Please email us, take2 at EWTN.com. Until tomorrow, Take Two family, you did it again. Have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.